Mr. Sharon, you're before the court on the bench warrant issued on January 6, 2024 in this matter as a result of your failure to appear at a debtor's exam on December 11, 2024 at 9 o'clock a.m. Court notes that there is a proof of service in the file showing service upon you in this matter on 11/29/23, 2023 at 2:11 p.m., which you signed for that. Why did you not appear for the debtor's exam, sir?
I totally forgot about it, Your Honor. There was a couple of them I tried to do like a Zoom thing, and it wouldn't allow me to get into the call or whatever.
Well, if you forgot, then it wouldn't matter. You're trying
I
to
didn't know
get in
if this was
because
a
you
similar.
didn't.
Sure, I understand. It was my mistake.
Okay, Ms. Mueller-Wilson, what's your preference in this matter?
My preference is that we conduct the debtor's exam, if possible, by way of Zoom. I understand that Mr. Sharon has not posted bail. That's why he's in jail. And as a consequence, we can't ask the court for money because he didn't pay any money.
Right.
So I guess we conduct the creditor's exam now if you could put us in a breakout room.
We'll do that, Mr. Sharon. What we're going to do is we're going to have you sworn in. We'll put you in a breakout room with Ms. Mueller-Wilson, and she can go through the exam at this point, okay?
Well, I have a question because is this just a contempt of court charge?
Yes.
Is there like a bond?
There was a bond. Like there was a bond set in the amount of $2,000. Correct.
On this?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if that's something because I'm in here, but there's a couple other cases going on, and my family's ready to bond me out. And I didn't even know about this case. I went to court yesterday, and
sir, I'm sure you didn't go to court yesterday. It was a Sunday, and
I went to court yesterday.
Monday. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
You didn't go to my court yesterday, so this is on the debtor's exam. So what we're going to do is have you sworn in. We'll put you in a room with Ms. Mueller-Wilson. She can ask all the questions that she needs to ask, and then we'll address it at that particular point. I guess at that point, if she in fact has all the information she's needed, then we can, at that point, because you haven't posted bond, we can dispense with that.
I'm just wondering if there's any way, because I will not miss another court date if there's any possible.
Well, you don't have to. You're right. You're here now. She's going to talk to you now and get all the information she needs. And so there will not be another date set up.
I was curious about bonding out on this charge. I don't, if that's something that I have to do again, or if I will have to.
After the exam, you would not have to bond out then, because what we'll do is the court would cancel the bond at that point, provided that you've given Ms. Mueller-Wilson all the information she needs.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, so sir, raise your right hand. We'll have you sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, we'll put you in a breakout room, and I guess at that point, Ms. Mueller-Wilson, we're starting an evidentiary hearing. So all I can do is, if you need to come back in, you'll have to try to get back in, and then we'll try to break from that other hearing to address whatever concerns you have.
The only thing I'd like to mention is that I will need books and records of the business that, of course, Mr. Sharon doesn't have today. If the court could order him to have the documents that were subpoenaed back in November in my office within 14 days, that would be
okay. Mr. Sharon, I am gonna order that the books and records that Ms. Mueller-Wilson has requested, that you would provide those to her within 14 days of today's date.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes, sir.
We'll put you in a breakout room now, and then you can proceed. The delay. We had another matter come up actually yesterday that we had to do a hearing at 8:30. So unfortunately, started us a little bit late. But good morning to everyone. Court will note that this matter is before the court on the evidentiary hearing on the defendant's motion to expand parenting time in this matter. And Mr. Bartell, are you ready to proceed?
I am, Your Honor.
Ms. McNiff, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Bartell, do you wish to make an opening statement or proceed to your proofs?
Your Honor, I'll just state where we're going with this. We filed the motion back in 2021. Your Honor had a hearing in which my client had supervised parenting time, I believe it was for 1 or 2 hours a week, in which at that time Bruce Sweet was the supervisor ordered by the court. Mr. Sweet had supervised parenting time with him on several occasions and recommended that he gets expanded parenting time to 6 hours per week. There was a stipulation by the parties that my client would get 6 hours per week, and it was also recommended by Mr. Sweet that my client be supervised by his mother, which occurred. My client has consistently been exercising his parenting time. We are asking for the court to lift the supervised portion of it to unsupervised and expand his parenting time. Currently, my client is receiving overnights every other weekend from Saturday at 9 a.m. until Sunday at 6 p.m., supervised by my client's mother or his grandmother. We believe in this matter. There is nothing, at least, unless it's hearsay or just mere conjecture, that would warrant my client to not get that unsupervised parenting time. So that's all we're asking for in this matter, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. McNiff, do you wish to make an opening statement, reserve your opening statement, or waive your opening statement?
Your Honor, briefly, I would say that what Mr. Bartel has said is primarily right, although we will be presenting proofs today that Mr. Baker has had unsupervised parenting time, which was not authorized either by this court or by my client, and that he's been involved in a relationship that involved domestic violence in the last 12 months, in fact, in the last month, and that we believe that due to the fact that he has not curbed his violent tendencies or obtained any anger management counseling or tried to address the issues of domestic violence that he's perpetually had throughout a long time, that the children would not be safe alone with him. And we will be asking that his mom be removed as a supervisor for the reason that she has permitted him to have time with the children without her supervision.
Okay. Mr. Bartel, you're first witness.
Yes, I'd call Thomas Baker. Okay. And do you have any children?
Yes, I do. I have 5 children.
Okay. And I guess, could you name all your 5 children?
Jasmine, Braylee, Macy, Zoe, and Tessa.
Okay. And Jasmine, how old is Jasmine?
She is 15. She will be 16 on the 19th.
Okay. And do you have parenting time with Jasmine?
I have full custody of Jasmine.
Okay. And how long have you had full custody of Jasmine?
Since she was 5.
And is that just full physical custody or also legal custody?
It's joint legal custody, full physical, joint legal.
Okay. And what is the parenting time, I guess?
Well, it's supposed to be her mother gets her every other weekend, but sometimes she doesn't get her.
And you said she's 15 years old?
Yes, sir.
And what grade is she in?
She is in the 9th grade.
Okay. And does she have any issues at school with regards to her grades?
There's a couple classes that she could do better in, but for the most part, she's a pretty good student.
Okay. But she's otherwise on track in the grade she's in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And have you ever had your parenting time suspended or limited with regards to Jasmine?
No.
Okay. Has there ever been any allegations that you have abused her, either physically or mentally?
Nope.
Okay. And with regards to your other, I'm sorry, who is the mother of Jasmine?
Her name is Lindsay.
And do you and Lindsay co-parent with regards to Jasmine?
Yes, we communicate with each other on a regular basis and discuss her future.
Okay. Are there any issues with regards, any major issues with regards to co-parenting with Jasmine's mother?
No.
Okay. And you indicated you had 4 other children. Who is the mother of those other 4 children?
Jennifer Wheeler is.
Okay. And what are the ages of the 4 children?
Braylee is 8. Macy is 6. Zoe is 4, and she will also be 5 on the 19th, the same as Jasmine. And Tessa is 3.
Okay. And what is your current parenting time with those 4 children?
As you said in the opening statement, I get them every Saturday from 9 a.m. to Sunday at 6 p.m.
Approximately how long has that been going on?
Several months now, since the last time we were in court.
Okay. Since about the end of November of
I believe-
2023?
I believe so.
Okay. And prior to that, what was your parenting time with the children?
Every 6 hours on Sunday, and we usually did 1 to 7.
1 to 7 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
And how long had that gone on for?
Over a year.
Okay. And prior to that, was there a different parenting time arrangement?
Only when we were seeing the kids with Bruce Sweet. Once we stopped seeing the kids with Bruce Sweet, it's always been the 6 hours on Sundays with my mom. And then just recently it was changed to the overnights.
Okay. And what was your parenting time prior to the last evidentiary hearing in December of 2021? When you were receiving overnights?
Prior to 2021, I didn't see my kids for almost a year.
Okay. And was there a time that I guess you did regularly see your children?
Before 2021, it was when I was living with them.
Okay. Now, I just want to get some background information. Where do you currently work?
I work at Faber Laser Manufacturing in Marshall.
Okay, and what do you do there?
I assemble small parts for other welding manufacturing companies.
And how long have you been there?
My year mark was January 6th, so I've been there 13 months.
And about how many hours per week do you work?
I usually work 36 to 44 hours a week.
Do you average 40 hours a week? Or is it different?
I usually average about 30, 38. Right now is a slow season right now, so there's not much work right now, but it's picking back up.
Okay. And how much do you earn per hour there?
I was making 23 an hour, and I just had my review last month, and I got a 50-cent raise. So I'm at 23.50 an hour.
And do you get any benefits at Faber Laser? What I mean, like medical?
No, it's a very small company. There's only 10 employees, so they don't offer health insurance.
Okay. And are you currently paying child support?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall what the child support amount is per week?
I believe it's $368 and some change.
And is there an arrearage right now?
Yes, sir.
And approximately what is the arrearage?
I'm willing to guess it's close to 12,000.
Okay. Can you explain to the court why you have an arrearage of that amount?
During the first evidentiary hearing we had, I was only making $15 an hour, and the court set my child support to $23 an hour. So even at half my paycheck, it wasn't enough for the full amount. So I kept going into arrears every week, even as I was paying child support. I did go a span of 5 months, I believe, before the evidentiary hearing where I didn't have a job. So that kind of added to it as well. But even working now at $23 an hour, if I don't work a little bit of overtime every week, my check is literally half my check, and then I still owe her a few dollars after that because it's never the full amount.
Okay, so after that period of time where you were making 15 an hour and you had a period of time where you did not have a job, have you consistently made your child support payments?
When I wasn't working, I didn't, but since I've been employed, I have been making it regular payments.
Okay, so since you've been working with Faber Laser?
Actually, when I started working at $15 an hour, it was with Prairie Farms through a temp service. And then I went through a couple other jobs to try to get up to that 23 an hour. And then I finally found this place last January.
Let me re-ask the question.
Okay.
So since you were working with Faber Laser, you have consistently been making your child support payments?
Yes.
Okay, so it was the period prior to that that you had incurred your arrearages.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, where do you currently live?
I live with my mother.
And how many bedrooms are in that house?
4.
Okay. And how long have you been living there?
Since I moved out of Jennifer's house in
And what date was
2021. March 26, 2021.
Are you able to afford to move out of your mom's house?
No,
And why is that?
because I can't make enough money with half my child support or half my check being taken out for child support. I don't have enough to even afford rent. Like I barely make it by right now. I try to give my mom money for rent to stay here, but some weeks I can't because I don't make enough money.
Now, with regards to your children, you had indicated that you were receiving overnights every other weekend.
Yep.
I guess, can you describe how do you get the children?
Me and my mother drive in her van all the way to Coldwater to pick them up. We get there just before 9. They come out, they give us hugs, we get in the van, and we drive back to my house, to my mom's house.
Okay. And so plaintiff lives in Coldwater,
Yes, sir.
and approximately how long of a drive is that for you and your mother?
It's about 45 miles one way.
And you're doing all of the driving for the pickup and drop off?
Yes, sir.
So when you get your children, do you spend all the time with them?
If I'm not working, yes.
Okay.
There are some Saturdays where I have to work a small shift of 5 hours, and it's usually from 10 to 3, but it's not every Saturday that I work.
Okay, so not often?
Not often, no. I usually spend most of my time here with them.
Okay. And I guess who prepares their meals?
I make their breakfast and lunch, and my mother makes the dinner, but I serve them and clean up after them for every meal.
Okay. And who does their laundry?
I do mostly. My mom has helped me in the past. When we are running late or something, she'll help me out.
So since you have such a short period of time with your children, can you explain to court why you're doing laundry?
I have all my own clothes here for them. So whenever they get here, I get them out of their clothes that they came in, and I wash them and dry them. So that way, when we take them back the next day, they have their same clothes that they came in, clean and ready to go.
So you do have clothes there for all of your 4 children?
Yes, sir.
And do you ensure that the children are bathed?
Yes, sir. I bathe them every week and they come over.
Okay. And who puts the children to bed?
I do.
Okay. Is there any other ritual, such as reading or anything else that you do with the children before they go to bed?
Yes, we do read stories from time to time. Most of the times they like to sit down and watch a movie. Their favorite is Finding Nemo.
Do the children, are they bonded with you from your perspective?
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain to the court why you think they are bonded with you?
Well, for starters, when I do go to pick them up, they rush out of the house and basically lunge at me to give me a hug and tell me how much they miss me. And then on the drive home, they don't want to get out of the vehicle. We have to coax them into getting out of the vehicle because they don't want to go home. They want to stay with me. I feel like that should show that there's a pretty good bond between us.
When you say go home, you mean back to plaintiff's residence?
Yes, back to Coldwater.
And you have issues getting the children out of the car to go back to plaintiff?
Yes.
Are any of the children worse than the other ones, I guess, with regards to trying to get them out of the vehicle?
Yeah, Macy, my 6-year-old, it's pretty hard for her. She's usually in tears most of the car ride home. If not, she's sleeping. But when she gets home, she refuses, and we have to, coax her into doing it and tell her that it'll be okay. We'll see you guys, in a couple weekends. And then we try to tell them what we have planned for them. Like, well, next time you come over, we're going to have a birthday party for, Jasmine and Zoe. So.
How long does it take you to get Macy out of the car?
It differs each visit, but I would say at least a couple minutes each time.
And do the children come to you if they have any issues?
Yep.
Okay. And can you describe to the court what type of issues they come to you with?
Yeah, when they're playing together and they all of a sudden don't get along to where one child's being mean to the other one, they'll come get me and explain the situation.
Okay. Do the children ever confide, and I don't want you to say what they're saying, but do they ever confide in you? Whether it's secrets or just concerns that they have going on in their life?
Yeah.
Okay. So they feel comfortable with you to have conversations with you about private matters?
Yep.
And you had mentioned that the children hug you when they first see you and they don't want to get out of the car on the way back. Are they otherwise affectionate with you?
All the time.
Okay.
They tell me how much they love me. They tell me I'm the best dad in the world.
And are they otherwise affectionate, though otherwise hugging and whatever at your home?
Yep.
Okay. Have the children ever been sick on your parenting time that you recall?
Yes. Just a couple weekends ago, Macy, my 6-year-old, she was sick. Not so much to that she was throwing up, but she did say her stomach and her head hurt and she was really tired a lot. So I monitored her temperature and I gave her children's Tylenol to help with the headaches and the stomach aches.
And were you able to care for her?
Yes.
Okay. And with your job, do you have the ability to take time off if you need to for family emergencies or if the children are sick?
Yes, my boss is very understanding and she knows that I am a single parent and she understands the situations that I'm dealing with right now. And we don't have a attendance policy at work or anything. We just, if we miss some time, we have the opportunity to come in on the weekends and make that up.
Okay. So if your parenting time is expanded in the future, you would be able to take time off and care for them otherwise?
Yes, sir.
In emergencies. Okay. Now, with regards to anything with their homework, is any homework ever sent by plaintiff with the children?
No, sir.
Okay. So you haven't had the opportunity to try to do homework with them?
No.
Do you ever do any educational programs or games or anything else with them like that?
We have a few games that involve education. Like we have the letters game where you have to make words with letters. We have numbers games. I do, like I said, I try to read with them, and like Braley and Macy, they're the 2 out of the 4 that know how to read. So I try to quiz them and say, hey, what's this say?
Okay. And you routinely do that?
Yes.
Okay. With regards to school, have you been to any school functions?
No, I get told nothing about anything with school.
Excuse
I'm
me.
sorry. Yeah, that broke out.
I'm saying, no, I don't get any information about school.
Can we pause for a moment? I just see that there's somebody else who's joined us and I don't know if this is a witness.
Yeah, this is our 8:30 arraignment. They're finished now. I'm just waiting for Mr. Sharon to join. Judge, do you want to address?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but why don't we put everybody else back in the waiting room? We'll address that and then, okay, Ms. Mueller-Wilson, enlighten us what's happening.
Mr. Sharon was very forthright and answered all of my questions. Did say that you'll be getting documents to us in 14 days and we'll start making payments on the 23rd of February, albeit small payments, but at least it's a start.
Okay. Mr. Sharon, what I'm going to do then, obviously we've had the hearing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel the bench warrant that will allow you to be released. I will tell you it'll take a little bit of time because I'm involved in another hearing. So it's not going to happen right away. It's still going to take maybe a couple hours to get the paperwork prepared so that we can you'll be able to get released. You understand that?
Okay.
It's only on this thing. If you have something else that has you in jail, I don't have any impact over that.
No, that stuff's all ready. I can be bonded out on everything. It's just been waiting on this.
Okay. Well, as soon as I can get the paperwork and can get that done, then we'll do that and get it to the jail. But again, we're involved in this other hearing, so it will take a little bit longer than normal. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Make sure that you provide all that
I will.
information to Ms. Mueller Wilson, and then because I'll tell you, if not, she'll be back in and asking for another bench. So, okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. We'll have
All
a
right,
matter
thank
at 9:11 a.m. You're free to go. Have a good day.
Yeah, if they can get that over as soon as possible, that'd be awesome.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. May I inquire if there's somebody in the room with Mr. Baker? I thought I heard a voice.
Okay.
So I think where we left off was whether or not you've gone to school events for the minor children.
Correct.
Have you?
No. The only thing I've been invited to was they were in a after-school activity for a dance program, and I was able to go see them perform.
And when was that?
Last summer.
Okay. Has plaintiff notified you of the children's, I guess, school schedule or extracurricular activity schedules?
No, she doesn't communicate with me at all.
Okay. And she has sole legal custody right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how do you discipline the children if you need to?
I talked to them, I sit them down and I explain to them what was wrong that they did. And then I give them a choice of whether they can say they're sorry to the other person or clean up the mess they made or whatever the situation may be, or take a time out.
Okay. Do you ever hit the children?
No, sir.
Okay. Are you otherwise physical with the children?
No, sir.
Do you scream at the children?
No. There may have been a time here or there where they were being very loud and I had to raise my voice just so they could hear me, but I never straight out screamed or yelled at them.
Okay. How do you normally talk to the children?
With a soft voice, loving.
Do you love your children?
With all my heart.
Now, I understand you live with your mother. Could you describe to the court how often you involve your children with other family, grandparents, your other daughter, Jasmine, etc.?
Jasmine's usually here on the weekends that the other kids are here. I had that worked out with her mother to where they could all be together on the weekends they're here. My kids do spend a lot of time with my mother and my stepfather. My grandmother sees us every Sunday, be at church or at home. I bring them to all our family get-togethers, Thanksgiving, Christmas, like all the holidays. They get to see all their family members on this side of the family.
You had mentioned church, so you take your children to church?
Yes, we attend regularly. This last couple Sundays we haven't gone because there's been sickness in the family, but we do try to go every Sunday.
Okay, what church do you belong to?
I attend Overflow Church in Battle Creek.
Okay, and how long have you belonged there?
I have been a member of that church since when me and Jennifer were together. She used to attend that church with us.
Okay. But you routinely take the children to church?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any programs related to church that they participate in?
They, other than just the nursery and the kids' classroom, they did a Christmas play for the month of December, which they all got on stage and performed and danced and sang in front of, all the church congregation.
Okay. Does it appear the children enjoy going to church with you?
Oh, they love it.
Okay. And they meet a lot of people at church?
Yep.
Are there other children that go to that church?
Yeah, we have a very big number of children that go to Overflow Church.
I know you'd mentioned it before, that you feed the children. Do you buy them food?
Yes.
Okay. And do you buy them clothes and toys and other necessities?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Could you describe to the court the type of toys that they have at your place?
Well, it's mostly girly toys, but like they got Barbies, they got stuffed animals, they got a lot of activity games that take small pieces. We have some board games. They particularly like craft stuff, so we do a lot of arts and crafts here with them.
When you say arts and crafts, what type of arts and crafts are you talking about?
Well, we have we do paintings. My mom will buy some canvases to do paintings on. I got them hung all over my bedroom. They like to play with Legos. They like to, we made Christmas ornaments and wreaths and window decorations.
And do your kids have sufficient clothes at your place?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Socks, underwear, pants, shorts, shirts, sweaters.
Okay. And you get them new clothes if they grow out of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do your children have any special needs that you're aware of?
No,
Has plaintiff ever notified you of the children's doctor's appointments?
no,
Has she ever notified you of any significant medical issues that are going on with the children?
no.
When is the last time she talked to you?
February of 2023.
And what did she say then?
Well, it was right after my breakup with Shelby. I was trying to reach out to her to talk to her about being civil and working together for the better interest of our children. And I got no text messages back from her. And I actually had the kids, and she came to pick them up because he was in town. And I tried to talk to her in person, and she said it's just best if we don't speak to each other. And I left it at that.
Did you take that to mean you guys should never speak to each other ever again?
That's what it seemed like to me.
Okay, so she's not willing to talk to you about the children with you.
To my knowledge, no.
Do you find out medical extracurricular activities or education, I guess, issues or things going on through the kids then?
Yeah.
So that's your source that you have to rely on now?
Yes, sir.
Do you ever get any information from your mother?
Not really. She doesn't get that much information either from Jennifer.
How long have you been living? I'm sorry, I think you indicated before. How long have you been living in the home you're in right now?
Since March 26, 2021.
If your parenting time is expanded by this court and you're given unsupervised parenting time, would you continue to try to match up the parenting time with Jasmine so that they can all stay together?
Yes, sir.
And how do your 4 children with plaintiff interact with Jasmine?
Oh, they love Jasmine. They can't wait to see her. Whenever she doesn't usually ride with us to pick them up, she usually stays home. So when we get home, the girls usually run upstairs to her room to say hi to her. They like playing games with her.
So they get along, they play together. There haven't been any significant issues?
No, I mean, they're siblings, so they bicker with each other just from time to time, but that's normal in kids. But for the most part, they're very loving with each other.
Okay. And does Jasmine miss them when they are gone?
Yes.
Okay. And have your other 4 children with the plaintiff indicate they miss Jasmine when they're gone from Jasmine?
Yes. They tell me, they tell Jasmine, they tell my mom, they tell my grandma, they tell my stepdad that they miss us all very much. Every time we get them back, I missed you guys so much. That's what they tell us.
So I'm trying to focus on since the last order of the court. And when I say last order of the court, I mean the one back in December of 21. So we're talking about a little over 2 years. Has there been any physical abuse by you towards anyone?
There has been claims, but no.
When you say there's been claims, could you, I guess, expand on that for the court?
So I was dating a girl, and we got into an argument one day, and she attacked me, and she burned my face with a cigarette in multiple spots. I had red marks all over my neck from when she attacked me, and all I did was try to restrain her until she calmed down. My daughter Jasmine was there as a witness and reported the same thing I had just said to the police when the police were called to my house after allegations of me choking her and threatening to kill her.
Okay. Were there any criminal charges against you?
No, sir.
Was there any personal protection orders entered against you?
No, I was told that she was trying to get a personal protection order on me recently, but I have called the court last week and they said my name's not even in their system.
Okay. With regards to Shelby, I guess from your perspective, could you describe, is there any mental health issues on her part?
Yes, she is on disability because I don't know what it says word for word on her paperwork, but she has told me that her brain age is not the same as her actual age, that her brain has not fully developed.
Your Honor, I'm going shocked. It's 1, hearsay, and 2, it's a medical opinion that I don't think Mr. Baker is qualified to make.
Court will sustain that.
Has it been, from your perspective, has Shelby been up and down with regards to her mood and
Oh,
how she
extremely,
acts?
extremely.
Okay. And can you describe that to the court?
1 second, she'll be completely cool with you and fine. And as soon as something happens that she doesn't like or doesn't agree with, she instantly becomes mean and outraged.
You guys had gone back together again after
Yes, sir.
that? Okay, when
Yeah,
did
we
you get
didn't
back
talk-
together?
We didn't talk for 8 months, and we got back together on our anniversary date, which was August 5th.
Okay. And I guess who initiated getting back together?
I think it was equal parts. We both kind of realized that we weren't blocked on Facebook with each other anymore, so we kind of just both started talking again. And then before we realized it, it was our anniversary date, and we both decided to give it another shot.
Okay. And did you guys break up again?
Yes, we did.
And when was that?
January 6th
Of
of
2024?
24. Yes, sir.
And who broke up with whom?
She broke up with me.
Okay. And so that was about 6 weeks ago, 5.5 weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I guess even during that time when you got back together with her, was there any domestic violence by you towards her?
No, sir.
Have you been criminally charged with anything?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. Has there been any personal protection order entered?
Again, to my knowledge, no.
Is it your understanding that there's been threats by plaintiff that there is?
Yes, sir.
Is it to your knowledge that she has threatened that even a year ago?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it a theme that plaintiff will threaten that there's going to be criminal charges or personal protection orders against you?
It would seem that way, yes.
Your relationship with Shelby is not, I guess, probably a good relationship to be into.
Objection leading.
I can restate it differently.
Okay.
I can restate it differently. How would you describe how you view your relationship with Shelby in the future?
Non-existent.
And why is that?
Because both times that we have split up, the first time she was physically abusive, the second time she was mentally abusive towards me. And I told her the second time we got together that if things weren't going to change and they weren't going to change for the better, then it'd be best if we weren't together. And I love her. I love Shelby with all my heart, but I can be mature enough to say that we're not good for each other.
Okay. Do you have any physical health issues?
No, sir.
Okay, so there's no limitations on physically for you?
Nope.
Do you have any mental health issues?
I have anxiety.
Okay. Does it interfere with your ability to care for the children?
No, sir.
You're otherwise able to cook and clean, bathe them, etc. Everything that we went through before?
Yes, sir.
If the court is willing to expand your parenting time and lift unsupervised parenting time, are you willing to cooperate with plaintiff regarding any parenting time schedule?
Absolutely.
Okay, would you want that to happen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you ever criticize plaintiff in front of the minor children?
No, never.
And why? Do you think that would be appropriate?
No, it would not be appropriate to badmouth the other parent in front of the child. That's one of the
And
things
why
I
is that?
learned because it creates a false idea of who that person is to the child.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I cut you off. You were starting to say you learned something regarding that?
Yeah, the bad mouthing the kids in front of, or bad mouthing the other parent in front of the kids is one of the things that we learned is a form of abuse in my men's healthy relationship classes that I'm taking.
Okay. And we'll get to that in a second, but okay. And will you, let me ask you differently. Do you encourage a relationship between the children and plaintiff?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And will you continue to encourage a good relationship between the children and their mother?
Yes, sir.
And why is that?
Because that's their mother. And at the end of the day, I have nothing but love for her and I wish her the best. And I ask the kids all the time if they're being good for their mom, if they're helping her. I have no malice.
And is there anything else that you do other than just inquiring about plaintiff and the children doing things for her that you do to encourage the relationship between the children and plaintiff?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, that was a lot there. Is there anything else that you do to encourage the relationship between your children and plaintiff?
No, in my current situation, there's not much that I can do.
Okay. Other than you do try to tell them to do what mother says?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you indicated that you're participating in healthy relations classes.
Yes, sir. As part of my probation, I have to attend 26 weeks of the men's healthy relationship classes.
Okay. Let me back up. So there were criminal charges against you last time you were before this court. Is that correct?
Yes.
So back in December of 2021, when I say before the court, I meant the last evidentiary hearing, which was December of 2021, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what were the criminal charges that the court had heard about at that time?
There was 2 counts of felony child abuse and 1 count of domestic violence.
Okay. And did there come a point that you did plead guilty to a charge?
I did. I pled guilty to the misdemeanor of domestic violence. It was part of a plea agreement given to me by the prosecutor of Branch County, in which he would remove the felony charges if I pled guilty to the misdemeanor.
And was that under the diversion program under MCL 769.4A?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you have been on probation for how long?
A year and a half almost.
Okay. And have you been violated while you're on probation?
No, sir.
Okay. And have you had any issues while you're on probation? What I mean by that is the probation officer called you in and said, you're in trouble now because you're not doing what you're supposed to do?
No, the only issue I had was getting into the classes. It took a while to get into these classes, and the Branch County actually sent me a show cause hearing order for the not being in the classes, but I got on the classes before my court date, so they canceled it.
Okay. So you said these classes are 26 classes?
Yep, 26 weeks.
Okay. So how many classes do you have remaining?
Tomorrow will be my 20th class.
Okay. So you'll have 6 more after tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is your understanding that you have to do to be successfully discharged from probation?
I was told that I just have to pay my probation fines off and finish these classes successfully, and then I'd be off probation. I was supposed to be off probation on Halloween. That's when my year was up, because I was only supposed to be on probation for a year. But because the classes and everything got started late, my probation's been extended.
Okay. And speaking of healthy relations classes, what have you learned?
Well, the men's healthy relationship class, they teaches us the many different forms of abuse and ways to avoid using said abuse, as far as like gaslighting and intimidation, using the children against the other party, physical abuse, as well as mental abuse and emotional abuse. They teach us all the hidden signs that we may not see when we're in the mood or in the moment. And they teach us healthy steps to diffuse the situation.
Is there like active participation in these classes?
Oh, yes. We do homework almost every week. And once she gives us the homework, the next week when we go into class, we have to present that to the whole class, not just her.
Okay.
The class is about 8 people in it.
Okay. And could you, if you recall, indicate what homework you have done to the court, I guess, or at least one presentation that you have been involved in?
Oh, yeah. So one of our homework assignments it's called an action plan. And what that is they want you to think about something in your life or something about yourself that you would like to change. And then we write 5 to 6 detailed steps on how we plan to change that. And she's also told us that with these action plans, it helps us to teach ourselves goals for personal growth.
Okay. When you say she, who's she?
Her name is Julie Robert. She is the coordinator of the class, I would say.
And I guess circling back to this last example that you've given, is there anything else that you can think with regard to that example that you presented, I guess, to the class?
Yeah. So like, I mean, I got all my homework if you'd like me to read you one of my action plans, if that would help.
Well, we can't read off things, so you have to go off your memory.
Okay.
If you need to refresh your memory, that I guess you would have to indicate that to us, and we have to go through a step.
No. So for the homework, the action plan, the last one I did was one thing I wanted to change about myself was to not react in an angry manner when something upsets me. And some of the detailed steps that I wrote on there was to take a moment to take a breath and think about my reaction before I give it. And remember, I'm not, another one of my steps is I'm not the center of the universe, that things happen to other people that I don't know about. So to always go about with kindness is one of the key things. And then there's like 3 or 4 more on there, but yeah.
I guess it's hard with self-reflection sometimes, but I guess if you had to do it here, do you think you are improved since taking the healthy relationships classes?
I would say yes. There's been some issues at work and at home life every once in a while to where the older me would probably get upset and blow up about it. But after taking these classes and learning the steps that I've learned, I found myself to be a much calmer and collective person.
You said these classes started back in about November of 23?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess I want to jump around just for a second here. It appears plaintiff is making a big deal about you and your mother had a blow up about 14 months ago, Christmas of 2022.
Yes, sir.
Do you recall back in December of 2022, you were trying to get, you were having parenting time with your children, and there was a disagreement with plaintiff and your mother about around that time period?
Yes, my mother received a message from Jennifer Wheeler stating that she knew that this would upset me, but she wasn't going to let us take the kids for Christmas, which was a Sunday for my visitation, because of the weather. And me and my mother did get into a big disagreement about it, and we argued and stopped talking for several weeks, which, I mean, I could have handled that situation differently, and had I been in my classes, I would have been able to handle it differently. But I take full blame for us having our disagreement, and we reconciled, and things have been great ever since.
Okay. And did anyone hit anyone when you had this disagreement?
No, there was no physicality to it at all. We may have gotten a little loud with each other, but out of frustration that happens, but nothing violent ever happened.
Okay. This wasn't in front of the children, correct?
No, it was not in front of the children.
Okay. And I guess to delve just a hair deeper in, just so we understand what this was about, plaintiff was not going to allow you to have parenting time because she said there was a snowstorm out there?
Yeah, there was a winter weather advisory that happened on Christmas Eve that year, and it was over at 7 p.m. that night. So Christmas morning, the roads were decent enough to where I could have went and got them. But I understand her worry for safety for the children with the roads being bad.
Okay. And looking back at it, you understand that there's different viewpoints as to, I guess, situations like this one?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I guess, did you leave a voicemail for plaintiff?
I did. When my mother told me that we weren't going to be able to get them because we had planned this for weeks, because it was going to be our first Christmas together after mine and Jennifer's breakup. Excuse me. When I got that message, it did upset me. So I called the police station and asked them, if I have a court order and I show up with the police, does she have to give me the kids? And he said, yes. So I called her to tell her that, so to kind of maybe put some sense into her head, I guess, to allow me to see the kids, which I understand now within my classes, that was intimidation, and that was wrong to do so.
Okay. And did you threaten her life or to beat her up or anything like that in the voicemail?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. Did you just indicate, what did you indicate the best you can recall?
I indicated that I wanted my kids for Christmas and that it was my court ordered day to have them, and that if I had to, I would show up with a police officer. But that's where me and my mother got the disagreement in, is because she didn't want to go over there with a police officer and upset the children.
Okay. And you understand where your mother's coming from now?
Oh, yes, 100%.
Okay. And you agree that it may not be good for the kids to show up with the police regarding parenting time?
I agree.
Okay. And do you understand that the court would deal with any violations of the court orders?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Speaking of Christmas, let me ask you, did that upset you more? Let me ask it differently. Did plaintiff ever celebrate holidays?
When we first got together, she wasn't really the holiday type. She was more of a Scrooge. It was usually me that would initiate the holidays.
Okay. And did you miss the previous Christmas with your children?
Yes, I did.
Okay. When I say previous, that would have been 2021.
Yeah, I did not get to have them for Christmas, and I didn't even get to see them around Christmas.
Can you describe, I guess, the best that you can when the children are over at your place? What are all the things you do together?
Well, when the weather's nice, we like to play outside. We'll go to the park. When it's kind of wet or cold, we'll play inside and we'll play games here in the living room, or we'll play video games. They like to help cook. They like to, like I said, they like to do lots of crafts. On top of going to church and everything like that.
And you're always engaged with them when you have your parenting time with them, other than the
Yes,
few times you have to go work?
Yes, sir. 100%.
And has there been times, I guess, prior to the court ordering overnights back in November of 23, that plaintiff would provide overnights?
Yes, we had, I had given you a list, but we had quite a few overnights during the year of 2023.
Okay. And so that is all set up through your mother?
Yes, my mom and Jennifer set all that up.
And if you recall, the last overnight that plaintiff had given with the minor children prior to the court ordering the overnights?
I would say the weekend before we went to court, because they were staying over here so they could go to church to practice to be in the play that they put on.
If the court expands your parenting time and lists the restrictions, would you still encourage a close relationship between the minor children and plaintiff?
Yes, sir.
And why is that?
Well, like I said before, that's their mother, and that's the only mother they're going to have. So I don't want there to be any issues like that. I want them to have a good and loving memories with their mother. You know, I feel that both mother and father should have equal time with their children.
Okay. And do you do drugs or alcohol in front of the children?
No, I do not.
Okay. Do you do illicit drugs at all?
I smoke marijuana here and there, but not since I've been on probation. Not since I've been on probation, though.
Okay, so that was prior to probation.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that you're a better person and a better parent now in the last couple of years?
I feel like I've grown tremendously. My biggest issue was my temper. But I feel like after everything's said and done and with these classes, I think I'm a better person because of it.
And you're asking the court today to lift the supervised parenting time and to expand your parenting time?
Yes, sir.
And you had mentioned that kids, at least they like to give you hugs and everything. Do they appear to miss you when you drop them off?
Yes, they cry when they walk into the house.
Okay. And you have a close bond with the children?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does it appear they want to spend more time with you?
Yes, every weekend when I go to bring them home, they tell me they don't want to go home.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. McNiff, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Baker, in your motion to expand parenting time, you indicated that you had read parenting books from the local library. What parenting books did you read?
One of my favorite ones was The Idiot's Guide to Parenting. There was that one, and I had two other ones that I didn't get all the way through, but that was before I started taking these classes, and I don't remember what the title was.
And what did you learn from The Idiot's Guide to Parenting?
A lot of the same stuff that I'm learning in my men's healthy relationship class.
It sounds like the men's healthy relationship class involves your relationships with adults as well as children. Is that accurate?
Yes, they have each week we do a different lesson, and there's been several lessons that have had children involved.
But the books that you indicated you read were specifically about parenting.
Yes, ma'am.
So can you remember one of the things that stood out in your mind from reading a parenting book?
Yeah, like no matter what what happens, whatever a kid does, it's always best to come approach them with a soft tone of voice instead of angrily yelling at them. I've read that yelling at a child actually does brain damage.
And prior to reading that, were you did you yell at children, whether yours or stepchildren?
I wouldn't say like a lot, maybe here and there when they were getting out of hand, I'd have to raise my voice, but never like straight up scream like death yells at them.
Did you ever call Jennifer's boys from a previous relationship retarded?
I'm going to object, Your Honor, if this is going back to the prior order that the court had. Counsel could have presented this at the evidentiary hearing. The court would already have this and taken into consideration.
I can revise that question.
Okay, if you would.
Since January 12th of 2022, which was the entry of the last custody order, have you referred to Jennifer's sons as being retarded?
To my knowledge, no.
You've never sent her a text message since that date calling them retarded?
If I did, it was out of anger and I don't remember it.
And other than the class you're currently attending, have you ever attended any anger management counseling?
Like 12 years ago, maybe.
And were you ordered to do that?
Yes.
And did you learn from that experience?
Yes.
But you still ended up with a DV charge far after that, and that's why you're attending the current classes, correct?
Correct.
So why should we believe that you're learning from this class when you didn't learn from the class 12 years ago?
I did learn from the class 12 years ago. What happened with me and Jennifer's son, Dominic, was an accident.
Right. And have you attended any individual counseling since January 22?
No, not since January of 2022, no.
Okay. Have you ever had a psychological evaluation?
Since January 2022?
Correct.
No, I've not.
And did you live with Shelby Howard?
No, I stayed there several nights a week, but my mailing address was never at Shelby's house. It's always been here at my house. My personal belongings have always been here at my house.
When you said several nights a week, how many nights a week on average would you spend at Shelby Howard's house?
2 to 3, maybe.
And from what period of time to what period of time?
From when we started dating, August 5th of 2022 or 21 till the time we broke up, which was January 29th of 2023.
And you indicated there was only one incident of domestic violence and that she was the aggressor?
Yes, ma'am.
You've never put bruises on her?
No, I have not.
Has she made allegations against you to you that you've been physically abusive to her?
She has
I'm
never
going
made
to object to hearsay.
Ms. McNiff, what's your response?
I'm not asking for specific words. I'm asking if she's ever accused him to him of that type of violence.
Well, that's just an end around, but
Yeah, how
Tomato,
would
tomato.
it not be hearsay if, again, if he's relating out of court statement?
I'll withdraw it.
Okay, thank you.
Did Ms. Howard attend parenting time at your mom's house with your kids?
Yes, ma'am.
How often would she do that?
Almost every Sunday. If she had other plans, she would do that, but most of the time she would hang out with us.
And did she observe you disciplining your children and parenting your children?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that your general discipline is to talk to the children, maybe put them in a timeout. Is that
Yes,
accurate?
ma'am.
Have you ever
Yep.
utilized any form of water to discipline the children?
Water, no.
Like spraying the children with water?
No, my stepdad's got a spray bottle that he just picks on the kids with, but we never do that to discipline them.
Now, you indicated that you thought the roads were fine for the Christmas of 22.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall that there was like a 30-degree temperature drop in about 18 hours during that period of time?
No, I don't recall that.
You don't recall bitter cold?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
Do you recall that the roads being icy as a result of a very rapid drop in temperature?
I recall there was a winter advisory on Christmas Eve until 7 p.m. And Christmas Day, I went out driving. Yes, the roads were a little icy, but they were not that bad to where I could go to Coldwater and get my kids. My father came from Kalamazoo to see me on Christmas Day, and he took the highway and said that they were pretty clear.
Would you agree that you were pretty hot about that incident, about the fact that Ms. Wheeler thought that the roads were too bad for the children to be out?
I wouldn't say I was pretty hot. I would say I was upset about it.
You didn't lose your temper?
Can you explain how?
Were you texting her and telling her that you would see her in court, that you were going to bring a police officer over?
Yes, I did.
Now, you indicated that your child support arrearage is so high because the income was incorrect. Is that accurate?
That is
Objection,
accurate.
Your Honor, he had stated several things. I would ask her to restate it.
Well, she can ask individually if that's one of the items or whatever, one of the bases.
Did you indicate that one of the reasons your arrearage was high was because you were making a lower amount of income than what was used for the child support calculation?
Yes, ma'am. In our last evidentiary hearing, you had mentioned that I made $23 an hour at Freedom Motors, so there's no reason I shouldn't be able to make $23 an hour, even though I was only making 15.
And would you agree that you voluntarily quit your job at Freedom Motors?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's why you were assigned to that income, is because you voluntarily quit that job?
Yes, ma'am.
And you took a lower paying job, correct?
Well, you're always going to take a lower paying job to start at a new place. You don't start at high numbers like that anywhere you go.
Okay. And that's not what I asked you. I asked you, is it true you quit your job and you took a job with a lower pay?
And I answered that and I said yes.
Okay. Who lives at your mom's house?
My mother, my stepfather, me, and my daughter, Jasmine.
And so you have a bedroom, correct?
Yes.
Your mom and your stepdad have a bedroom?
Yes.
Jasmine has a bedroom?
Yes.
And then the fourth bedroom is reserved for your children with Jennifer?
Right now it's got storage in it, but
So where do the children sleep when they spend the night at your mom's house?
they sleep all over. Some spend the night with their sister Jasmine in their room, some sleep on the couch, some sleep in my room on a cot that I have for them.
So were you to have, now you said you've been having overnights with the children for how long?
Quite a while, at least for a year.
And so is there a reason why that storage room hasn't been cleared out so that the children have appropriate places to sleep?
I would say no, I guess.
Is it possible that storage room could be cleaned out and you could put two sets of bunk beds in there so the children have their own beds?
Yeah.
But even though they've been coming overnight for a year, you haven't found them their own beds.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Even though they've been coming, you say they've been coming one overnight per every other week, you haven't secured them their own places to sleep, their own beds.
No, I have not.
Why not?
So again, it kind of runs into the money thing. I don't have money to buy them bunk beds right now.
Okay. You said that you're doing all of the driving currently.
Yes, ma'am.
There was a point when Jennifer was meeting you into Concha, correct?
Yep, and she stopped that when I told her oldest daughter I wouldn't help her with a ride for her baby.
Okay. And did it have anything to do with Christmas of 22?
No, because she stopped doing that well before Christmas of 2022.
Now, your children are 8, 6, 4, and 3, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you indicated that they don't have homework sent home with them?
That's correct.
Would you anticipate that children of that age would have homework?
Yes.
Okay, and why? Why would you think that?
Because Shelby has a son that's 7 years old and he has homework that gets brought home every day.
Okay. Does he go to the same school as your children?
No, he goes to a public school in Battle Creek.
So have you asked Jennifer if there's homework that they need to do on the weekends?
I have not, because Jennifer wishes that we do not speak to each other.
Do you have the ability to send her text messages?
I do.
And could you send her a text message that would ask that kind of question?
I could, but what would be the point if somebody says we shouldn't speak to each other? Every time I do message her, I don't get a response back. My mother does.
When was the last time that you tried to message her?
As I said before, it was February of 2023.
And what was the message?
Like I said, I was trying to get along with her, try to tell her I want to be civil for the sake of the kids. I also explained to her how Shelby is as a person and the incident that happened. And I tried to tell her that I need my kids now more than ever and that I would be willing to come to Coldwater to meet up with her, go over how the kids are doing in school and daycare and everything like that. I offered to pay for a meal when I came up there, told her I just wanted to be friends and that I wanted to work together for the sake of our children.
And you're currently on probation for domestic violence as a result of an incident against Jennifer?
No, against Jennifer's son, Dominic.
Okay. Do you think she might be a little bit nervous about communicating with you as a result of that experience with you?
Objection is speculation.
I'll withdraw it.
Thank you.
What you said that you read books with the children. What are their favorite books?
They really like Peter Rabbit. We have Jack and the Beanstalk. It's the Mickey Mouse version. And there's we have a lot of we got this little bookcase that comes with like 6 little books or 8 little books of Peppa Pig. They really like Peppa Pig and Paw Patrol.
You know where the children attend school, correct?
I know of, but I don't know where one of the schools actually located at.
Do you know the name of the school?
Yes, it's elementary school. I think that's Braley School.
And have you ever contacted the school to see if you can get a list of the school events?
No, because I knew that I have no rights right now because I have no legal or physical custody. They wouldn't give it to me.
Have you ever looked to see if the school has a website?
No.
Why not?
What would be the point to see if the school has a website?
Do you think the school might post when they have school concerts and school events?
Oh, I'm sure.
But you're not interested in finding out when there might be those school events that would be open to anyone to go see?
I would be.
Object to speculation. I'm going to object to speculation as to what may be on their website.
Well, I don't think that was the question, Mr. Bartella, was that whether he'd check in and think that was, that he would want to be involved in those activities. Go ahead.
To be honest, I didn't really think that far into it that I could do that. So now that you brought that to my attention, I'm definitely going to do that.
Did you inform Jennifer about the Christmas church program that the children performed in?
My mother did, yes.
But you didn't?
No, because again, like I said, Miss Wheeler requested that we don't speak to each other. So I have been respecting her wishes.
You said that your mom and Jennifer don't communicate that much, but your mom contacted her about the Christmas program, correct?
Correct.
And you said that your mom and Jennifer arranged schedules, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, in the Christmas of 2022, they were trying to arrange an alternative date so you could see the children on a different date when the weather was better, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to whatever communication between plaintiff and his mother. We can ask those people. They have personal knowledge.
Okay, Ms. McNiff?
Mr. Baker brought it up in response to one of my questions.
Yeah, okay, let's kind of move on if we could.
Have you ever sent a text message to Ms. Wheeler indicating that you were feeling suicidal and homicidal?
Your Honor, could I have a date?
Yeah, could we put a date on that so we have some?
In approximately 2022.
In 2022, I don't believe I did. If I did, like I said, it was out of anger.
You don't recall in February of 2022 indicating to her that you were depressed?
In February of 2022? No, I don't recall that. But I'm sure I was because my kids were being kept from me.
Do you know whether or not Ms. Howard ever filed a probation violation with your probation officer?
Not once.
Did you ever indicate to Jennifer that when your charges of domestic violence are dropped, that I'd be sweating if I were you to her?
Your Honor, what time period again are we talking?
Okay, if we could have the parameters and dates, Ms.
Your Honor,
McNiff.
I don't know if
I'm looking.
never mind, Your Honor.
I'll withdraw that. That was prior.
Thank you.
You indicated that one of your goals in your class for your action plan was not to react in an angry manner.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you agree that you do have a history then of reacting in an angry manner?
I'd say in the past that I chose to react in an angry manner more than a calm manner. I wouldn't say that I have an issue with it. As like I said, now I'm in these classes, it's been a big help.
Could you describe for me what that angry manner was when you were reacting in an angry manner? What would you do?
I would get loud and I would use intimidation tactics to try to coerce the other person to get what I wanted.
And how would you try to coerce the other person to get what you wanted?
Like I said, by intimidation.
So specifically, like was it words? Did you get close to them physically? What would you do?
It was words and maybe getting a little close, but it was never physical.
Did you ever throw anything?
Not to my knowledge.
Did you ever punch a wall?
No.
So it was strictly words. What kinds of words would you use?
Mostly foul language.
Did you call names?
I'm sure
I'm
I
going to
did.
object, Your Honor, as to everything prior. I mean, I don't know what the court wants to do going prior to the last order. The court would have heard all this before.
He said,
If we could confine ourselves to the last order, I understand you may want to get that in and why, but it's obviously pretty outdated and it's addressed by the last order. So kind of move on if we could, or otherwise we'll be here forever.
I understand, Your Honor, although this was more recent. Mr. Baker was testifying about what his action plan was just recently. And I was asking him what kind of reaction he was trying to improve.
Well, no, you were asking what specifically he had done prior to the classes and how he had previously reacted. So if you want to address how he's reacting now, that's fine, but let's not go beyond that.
I'll move on. Do you have drug and alcohol testing as part of your probation?
No, I have not been tested yet, but I'm pretty sure I will be because most probation, you have to be at least drug tested once.
And can you recall the last time that you lost your temper?
No, I can't. I would say, well, yeah, I can. I would say the last time I lost my temper was when I was sending Jennifer the voicemail about the Christmas. She said I couldn't have the kids.
And you haven't lost your temper with Miss Howard in the past couple of months?
No, I have not. When we broke up this last January, we broke up over text message and we didn't even see each other's faces.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Mr. Bartell, any redirect?
Just briefly, Mr. Baker, if you are given expanded parenting time and unsupervised, are you going to make the necessary arrangements for your children to have bunk beds or permanent beds?
Yes, sir.
And you might have more money at that time then? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Anything else, Ms. McNiff, as a result of that limited question?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. That will conclude your testimony then, Mr. Baker. Mr. Bartell, next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. I need to actually call Bruce Sweet, and I guess I got to address the matter with him. He indicates he's in a place where he does not have Zoom, but he can phone in. He saw the phone in portion of, I guess, the standard instructions we give. So I just want to make the court aware of that.
Okay.
So if I can
if you
give him a quick call.
Okay, why don't you put yourself on mute, call him, and then we'll go.
And where do you work?
I'm retired, but previously worked at psychological and counseling services when I met with Mr. Baker.
Okay. And what was your title there?
I'm licensed as a psychologist and a master's level social worker, but it was a private practice, so there was not a title involved.
Okay. And so what was it that you, I guess, engaged in as part of your employment?
One aspect of my employment there was to provide supervised parenting at the request of the court.
Okay.
And that's what I did with Mr. Baker.
Okay. And how long had you been at that job? I guess how long in your career?
I retired in 2015 from my primary employment, which was at Pines Behavioral Health Services, which is community mental health in Branch County. And then I worked in private practice from 17 until 21. No, I'm sorry, through 22.
And what degrees do you have?
I have a master's degree from Western Michigan University in counseling and personnel, and I'm licensed at the master's level for psychology and for social work.
And did you provide counseling services?
I did. That was my primary, the primary component of my employment, but that's not what I provided for Mr. Baker.
Did you have a, I guess, specialty with regards to counseling? And what I mean by that, was that focused on children, adults, or some other subsector?
I would have to say not a specialty, but a lot of experience in my 30 years of practice.
Okay. And were you ever qualified as an expert witness?
Yes, sir.
And in what capacity?
As both a psychologist and social worker in the counseling field.
And do you know how many times you were qualified as an expert witness? Approximately.
At least 10, and probably all of those would have been in Branch County.
In this particular matter, as you alluded to, you were a supervisor for parenting time. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at some point, did you author a report to the court?
Yes, I did. So I met with Mr. Baker and his children on 3 occasions, and then wrote a report to the court on March of 22.
Okay. And if you bear with me for a second, if I read the letter to you, Mr. Sweet, what may be the letter, can you confirm whether or not that was the letter you in fact wrote to the court back in March of 22?
I'll stipulate to the admission of the letter so that you can question Mr. Sweet on it.
Okay.
Perhaps he has a copy of it in front of him that you can work from.
Okay. And that is your Exhibit A, Mr. Bartel?
That is correct, Your Honor. We had filed that and sent one for the court as well.
Court will admit to defendant's Exhibit A, Ms. McNiff having stipulated to it.
Okay. I guess with regards to this, Mr. Sweet, I'm not going to go through the whole letter since it's admitted into the record for the court. Let me read a couple phrases. You had said during each of the 3 visits, Mr. Baker and his daughters were quite engaged with each other, talking, playing, and clearly enjoying the togetherness. Do you recall writing that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And overall, how do you think those 3 visits went between Mr. Baker and his children?
I thought the meetings went well. It started a little slow, as would be expected, but the kids warmed up quickly and the interaction was quite positive.
And when you say was expected, is that because Mr. Baker had not seen his children for quite a while?
I believe it had been 6 months since he'd last had face-to-face contact with his children before I met with them the first time.
And so you say it's overall positive. I guess there came a point that you recommended for my client's mother to take over the supervised visits?
Sir.
And
yes,
why was
sir.
that?
Mr. Baker's employment hours had changed, and he would only be available for parenting time on the weekend. And that didn't meet with my schedule. And I felt that the interaction with the children was positive and appropriate, and so a recommendation that Paula Harris continue the supervision, which was Mr. Baker's mother. And I discussed that with Jennifer Wheeler as well, and all parties were in agreement.
And did you also recommend that the amount of time be expanded as well? Meaning the number of hours?
Sir. Yes, sir.
And why was
hours,
that?
I believe. From the contacts that I viewed, I felt it was appropriate to extend his parenting time.
Okay. Now, I guess I want to focus. You made a recommendation or some type of recommendation at the bottom of your letter. You say, continued, Mr. Baker seems well connected with his children. They seem very comfortable with him. Continued supervised visits is seen as necessary until the legal matter of his alleged abuse is resolved. The resolution of that matter will likely impact upon his parenting time. Do you recall writing that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess could you share to the court, I guess, your thoughts as to what you meant or what you were thinking as to that supervised parenting time was necessary until the legal matter is resolved, and that after that it would impact his parenting time?
Yes, I believe the legal matter was what was driving the decision about supervised parenting in general. So I believe that was what brought into question Mr. Baker's ability to provide parenting to his children in a safe way. Those accusations had been made, but the situation had not been resolved. So he had been, in my understanding, accused but not convicted of having injured the stepson. So my thought was that if this was resolved, either by dismissal, that there, in other words, that there was no actual confirmation of the Mr. Baker hurting the stepson, or the opposite, if it was determined that Mr. Baker had assaulted his stepson and the court believed that that was putting Mr. Baker in a position where he would not be able to parent his children, that would lead to the decision about ongoing parenting time.
Yeah. So if Mr. Baker has pled to a domestic violence, he was charged with child endangerment felonies, and those were dismissed, and he pled to a domestic violence for putting his hand over the child's mouth and scratching the child. What would your thoughts with regards to, I guess, his parenting time going forward be?
My thought was that would not prevent him from providing safely for his children and would not inhibit an increase in his parenting time.
Okay. And also, if Mr. Baker has been put on probation, and he's testified he's been on probation for over a year, he has not had any violations on probation, doesn't have any criminal charges against him since the last court order, and he is participating in healthy relationships classes, would that have any effect on your view as to his parenting time being supervised or unsupervised?
I would think those things would all lend themselves to an increase in parenting time, and the need for ongoing supervision for 2 years, that would be seen as excessive in my opinion.
Okay. No further questions, Ron.
Okay. Ms. McNiff, any cross-examination?
Yes. Hi, Mr. Sweet. This is Attorney Lisa McNiff.
Good morning.
I represent Ms. Wheeler. You
Yes,
indicated
ma'am.
you had seen Mr. Baker on 3 occasions, each time for 1 hour with the children. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
And the kids at that time were 6, 4, 2, and 1 years old?
I believe that's accurate.
And Mr. Baker's mother was present for 2 of those meetings.
Yes, ma'am.
And would you agree that for an hour span of time, it's relatively easy to maintain your temper?
I would expect so. Yes, ma'am.
And your supervision of those hours, each of those hours with the children, were in a fairly controlled environment. Would that be true?
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
And would you anticipate that spending an entire day or an entire weekend with 4 small children under the age of 8 could be more difficult and more trying than spending an hour in a controlled environment with the children?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't counsel Mr. Baker for anger management, is that accurate?
That is correct.
And you didn't perform any psychological evaluation of him?
That's correct.
And was there any psychological evaluation that you had available to review for him?
No, ma'am, not that I recall.
And can you tell me what you were aware of with regard to Mr. Baker's behavior as it relates to his stepchildren at the time that you observed that parenting time?
Mrs. Wheeler had made me aware of the incident where Mr. Baker was being accused of injuring the stepson in a heated moment in the home.
And were you aware of any allegations of domestic violence against Ms. Wheeler? Right. Any domestic violence by Mr. Baker against Mr. Wheeler at that time?
Not that I recall, no.
And if there was testimony by one of Mr. Baker's recent romantic partners that there had been physical violence where he was the aggressor, would that give you concern about the safety of the children?
If there's some significant question about Mr. Baker's aggressiveness, I would recommend a psychological evaluation, some testing to be done to try to get a better view of that. So it'd be hard for me to say that should or shouldn't interfere with parenting time when it's an accusation being made by an outside party with us not having any information surrounding that relationship or the ins and outs of that.
How confident, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
excuse me. No, I was done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sweet. How confident are you that the 3 hours that you spent with Mr. Baker 2 years ago is an accurate gauge of what kind of a parent he is now?
I guess I'm going to
Obviously,
object, Your Honor. I'm only going to object as to I don't think that's twisting what Mr. Sweet has indicated. It wasn't just the time he spent with them, it was the other stuff that we went over. So that's my objection.
Okay, well, I'll allow the question and go ahead.
What
Do
took
you need me to
place?
repeat, Mr. Sweet?
I think I've got it, but what took place over 2 years ago, that would be very difficult for me to make a determination that he would be as good a parent or not as good a parent today. I know that doesn't really answer your question, but I don't think I can.
I appreciate that. No, I have no further questions.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Bartel?
Yeah, just briefly. Mr. Sweet, do you think it's important if we have testimony from the supervisors that Mr. Baker engages with the children appropriately? Do you think that's a good barometer as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and why is that?
I believe if Ms. Harris has continued to provide supervised parenting time for, even though it's his mother, I believe her input would be extremely helpful to the court in making a decision here. If she's been supervising 6 hours, and maybe it's increased since my recommendation back in 22, but if she's continued to supervise that contact, I believe she would be in the best position to inform the court of how that interaction has been.
And so if her supervision has increased to overnights from Saturday at 9 a.m. till Sunday at 6 p.m., that would even give her more insight. Would you agree that would give her more insight as to the appropriateness of Mr. Baker and his interaction with his children?
Yes, I would.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. McNiff?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Sweet, I did have one question. Obviously, I did have an opportunity to review your report. I say, was there anything that you saw during your contact with the defendant and his children that caused you any concern, notwithstanding the fact that it was approximately 2 years ago?
I thought the interaction, Your Honor, was very appropriate. It was a busy setting with each of the children wanting Mr. Baker's attention. He handled that well.
Okay, thank you. As a result of that, anything else, Mr. Bartel?
Just briefly, actually, there was one other note, if the court will give me some leeway. Mr. Sweet, if there's been no allegations of violence against Mr. Baker's kids, between him and his kids, do you think that plays an important role here as well?
Had that allegation towards his stepson? Was that the question?
I'm sorry, that might have been poorly. If there's never been an allegation towards Mr. Baker that he's harmed his children, do you think that's also important in part of this analysis?
Yes, it is.
And why is that?
Mrs. Wheeler had told me that she thought he was a good parent with the children. And if there's not been, prior to their separation, and if there's not been substantiated complaints of or accusations of aggressive behavior, harmful behavior towards his children, I think that says a lot, because it's an adversarial relationship at this point between Mr. Baker and Miss Wheeler, and so there's a greater likelihood that accusations are going to be made. So if none have been made and substantiated, I think that's very significant.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Ms. McNiff, anything as a result of that questioning?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sweet. That will conclude your testimony. You're excused. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Mr. Bartel, next witness.
Yes, Your Honor, I would call Paula Harris. And do you know Thomas Baker?
I do.
And who is he?
He is my eldest son.
Okay. And do you have any grandchildren?
I do. I have 5.
Okay. And I guess let me just jump into it. Have you been the supervisor for parenting time with your son, Mr. Baker?
I have.
Okay, and do you recall when that started?
I believe maybe January or February of 2022.
Okay.
I think.
And could you describe to the court, I guess, have you had different stages of supervision? I guess what I meant by that is, has it expanded?
Yes. I went to the counseling sessions or the supervised sessions when he was seeing Bruce Sweet. And then in one of those sessions, Mr. Sweet suggested that I take on role of supervisor and suggested we expand it to 6 hours a week, which happened, and we had been doing that. And then just recently, we had the court okay overnights.
Okay. And before the court okayed overnights, let me ask you, did that occur about the end of November of 23?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And were there overnights that plaintiff was allowing Mr. Baker to have prior to that with your supervision?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know approximately when that began?
Oh, wow. I would say early 2023.
Okay. And how often was that occurring?
It was frequent. I wouldn't say every weekend that we got them. We were getting the girls when we were at the 6 hour, just one day a week. We were able to do that every single week. And so when we did get them overnight, it would have been all the weekends, but it wasn't every single weekend. I would say probably between the time early 2023 and Christmas, I would say, I'm guessing about 8 times.
Okay. About 8 overnights?
Overnights, or during the summer, we had them for several days.
Okay. So there was expanded parenting time or expanded time that Mr. Baker was receiving?
Yes.
Just generally, how would you indicate the parenting time between Mr. Baker and his 4 kids going?
I think it's awesome. He's been doing very well with them. They love him. He loves them. They adore him.
Okay. And do you go with Mr. Baker to pick up the minor children?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you describe the children's reactions to seeing Mr. Baker?
They run out the door, smiles and giggles. I hold my hands out like this to get a hug, and they don't run to me. They run to their dad. And then I joke with them about that.
Okay. And do you go when you're dropping the kids off back to Miss Wheeler?
Yes, I do. I am required, at least in my opinion, to be present with them at all times.
Okay. And can you describe the reaction or how the children act when they have to go back to Miss Wheeler?
They usually don't want to go home. They're sad. I have one grandchild that we have to coax out of the car, bribe her basically, which is heartbreaking.
And which grandchild is that?
That's Macy. She's 6.
Okay. And so she doesn't want to go home?
No, she doesn't.
Okay. Is she ever crying?
Early on, there were many tears, and it was a longer time to get her out of the van. She has been better about that as time has went on. I watch her through the visor mirror in the van, and when she knows we're turning the corner, I see it in her eyes that she doesn't want to go home.
And you said you have to coax her out of the van. I mean, what type of things do you have to say to her?
Well, that she has school tomorrow, that her mom misses her, that she has to go in, her siblings miss her. We tell her that we've had fun this weekend. I usually have to pre-plan in my head on the spot some activity that I know she'll like to make her look forward to. Just telling her that we love her and everything is okay.
Is there a close bond between the children and Mr. Baker?
Absolutely.
And why do you say that?
Because every time they see him, he's like a magnet. They clamor to him. They want his attention. They don't want to leave his side. On the ride home, when we pick them up, it's 4 voices at once, all wanting his attention, all wanting to tell him about their week, asking him questions, wanting to tell him jokes. It's chaos in a van, but it's good chaos.
Okay. And some of these questions I'm asking, you may know or you may not. So just indicate if you do.
Okay.
Do you ever see the children go to Mr. Baker with a problem?
Yes.
Okay. Can you give an example or explain that to the court?
Usually the problems they have in our home are arguments, fighting over toys, fighting over tablet time, that kind of thing.
Okay. And is Mr. Baker able to appropriately address those issues with the children?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Okay. And how does he address those?
Well, if it's fighting over a toy, he always will say that you have to share. He looks at how long whoever the child is that has the toy, you've had it for 10 minutes, it's time to let the next one play, and then you can have it back. He tries to reason with them.
Okay. Does he ever get physical with the children?
No, well, hugs.
Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
Does he ever get violent with them? Does he inappropriately hit them or, I mean,
No.
anything like that?
Never.
Okay. And does he yell or scream at them?
He will sometimes raise his voice, but he doesn't scream.
Yeah. And from what you can tell, does Mr. Baker understand the needs for the children and relate to them?
Does he understand what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
The
that.
needs that the children, their needs
Like
and relate
physical
to them?
needs?
Yeah, anything that they need, physical, emotionally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even though I'm the supervisor, he does all the caring for them.
Okay. And so does he prepare the meals?
Not all of them. I do some of them, but I would say he does prepare the meals. And on the meals that I prepare, I'm not serving them. He will come in and plate their dishes up. He'll get their drinks. He will clean up after them.
Okay. And does he help them put them to bed at night, the children?
Yes.
Okay. And does he help them ensure that they are bathed?
Yes, he does.
Okay. And does he spend most of the time with the children during his parenting time?
When he's home, there are on occasion some Saturdays that he's working, and then of course I'm taking care of them. But when he is home, he is here, present, and engaging with them.
Okay. And so he's not just going off watching TV and letting other people take care of the children.
No.
Okay. And from what you can see, does he enjoy the time with the children?
He absolutely does. He would like more. When they do leave and we get back home, I've seen tears. He'll go into his room and cry. It's heartbreaking.
Let me ask you this. Is Mr. Baker able to put the needs of the children ahead of his own needs from what you can see as the supervisor?
Yes, I think I understand the question.
Okay. If you don't, you need me to rephrase it?
Yes, or
okay,
yes, rephrase it.
So that you agree that children have certain needs, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is Mr. Baker able to be attentive to those needs before anything for himself?
Yes.
Okay. And if you have an example, can you give one? If you don't, that's fine.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to come up with that off the top of my head, but well, dinner time. or any mealtime. If he wants to sit down and enjoy his meal, he doesn't, because they're either asking for seconds or they're asking for juice. So he makes sure that they're taken care of first before he eats his meal. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And do you see affection between the children and Mr. Baker?
All the time.
And what kind of affection do you see?
Hugs. If he sits down to watch a program with them, they're all on his lap. I think they just miss him.
And has Mr. Baker taken care of the children when they're sick that you've witnessed?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, there has been quite a bit of sickness going around this past fall. Macy has actually been sick during a lot of the summer, and so he gives her, we have like children's Tylenol, so he'll give her that, make sure she's drinking a lot, the things that you would do for a normal cold or flu.
And is he more attentive to any of the children if they are sick to make sure their needs are met?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Does Mr. Baker have the necessities for the children at your place, such as clothes, toys, toiletries?
Yes, he has a plastic chest of drawers, and each girl has her own drawer for their clothes. There's a toy chest in his closet, and there's also a hanging, I guess you would call it a wardrobe. It's one of the plastic ones where their dresses hang. There's plenty.
Yeah. Do you guys go to church together?
Yes, we do. I
Okay,
try to go every week.
Okay, so you guys go every week. What church is that?
We go to Overflow in Urbandale.
Okay. And does it appear the children enjoy that?
They love it.
Okay. Are they engaged there?
Yes, they are. I sometimes lead children's worship, so I have one Sunday a month I do that, and they are so tickled because Grandma is up there in worship, and I just see them. They just dance. They have so much fun. I'm not up there when the lesson is being taught, but I can only assume that they're enjoying it.
Would you ever put your grandchildren in harm's way?
Never.
Would you ever take sides with your son over your grandchildren's needs?
No.
Okay. Do you believe your grandchildren would be in any harm's way if your son would receive unsupervised parenting time with your
Not at all.
grandchildren?
Not at all.
Okay. And why do you believe that?
I have never seen him offer anything but love to these girls. The fact that he's being made out to be a danger to them, in my mind, is ridiculous. He's never been a harm to his own children.
And have you ever asked Miss Wheeler if she's been abused by Mr. Baker?
I did.
And what'd she say?
Well, this was before their breakup, when they were having issues. I said, you don't have to answer me if you don't want to, but I would really like to know, does TJ put his hands on you? And she responded, no.
Has Jennifer Wheeler kept your grandchildren from you?
Yes.
Okay. Could you tell the court when that has been?
It was early on when everything was fresh and new and ugly between the two of them. I reached out and I said that I wanted to see the children, that TJ really needed to see his children. I offered to be there with them, and she seemed to agree with that. But then as the argument got worse, she wasn't comfortable with TJ seeing the kids. I begged if I could. And we did initially set up visits, but then something would always come up and it would get canceled. And after about a month, I just gave up asking because I knew the situation. Probably I wouldn't see the children. And it was heartbreaking to know that I would see the girls on this day and then it not happen. And so this breakup, it does not involve TJ and Jennifer. It involves me, the grandchildren, and even her children. I consider my grandchildren.
I would like to bring up, I guess, an issue that plaintiff seems to be clamoring to here is, do you recall Christmas of 22 having a fight or disagreement, however you want to label it, with Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Okay. Could you describe to the court, I guess, your perspective as to what happened then?
Christmas Day fell on a Sunday, which is his visitation day, and he had been pretty down. And so I was trying to use that as a lift for him. And I kept saying, this is great. We get the girls on Christmas. We didn't see them the Christmas before. And I was telling them all the wonderful things that could happen. Well, there was a snowstorm, and actually Jennifer was going to let us have them Christmas Eve and spend the night with us. But then the snowstorm happened, and she said she wasn't comfortable with the girls being out in the weather. I agreed. And she said, it depends on the weather Christmas Day. If the weather is fine, you can come down and get them. But that never happened because TJ was very upset that he wasn't able to get them on Christmas Eve. When we did wake up, the storm was done, but I didn't feel comfortable on the roads. My son from Grand Rapids didn't come down because of the roads. And so I told him that Jennifer and I had set up for him to get them Monday. The storm would have been over, and he would have been able to keep them all week. So the argument was over not having them on Christmas.
Okay. So the testimony previously was that Mr. Baker admitted in hindsight that he was acting out of, that it wasn't appropriate from his end, his reaction. Did there come a time that you guys did make up?
Yes, we didn't speak from Christmas Day until about the end of January.
Okay.
But at the end of January, he did apologize, and we did reconcile.
Okay. And did he ever threaten you when you guys had this disagreement?
Never.
Okay. Did he get physical with you?
No.
Okay. But it was a disagreement, correct?
Yes.
And
it was an argument.
Yeah. And so a lot of what I guess plaintiff is saying here is that Mr. Baker has just an extreme anger issue and is a danger to the children. I guess, could you describe to the court, generally, have you seen him being a danger to his children?
Never.
Okay. And he has pled guilty to domestic violence, and he's on probation, and he's engaged in healthy relationship classes. Do you think you have seen some improvement, at least just in general as a human being?
I have seen a lot of improvement with TJ.
Okay. And what kind of improvement?
The way that he responds to situations. Before, he would just immediately get upset, especially if he felt that he was in the right and he was being wronged. I see him taking a step back and thinking through it. He's a little more laid back. He did start to go to church, which I think has been a tremendous help for his spiritual well-being.
Okay. Anything else that you can think of improvement-wise on a day-to-day that you have seen with him since he's been engaged with healthy relationship classes?
Well, we live in a smallish house. So my husband and I live here, and now TJ and Jasmine. And sometimes having two males in the household is a little stressful. And my husband has never had a family, so it's difficult for him. And so when my husband might get upset, TJ does not react, or he'll walk away. So I've been proud of him for that, because before he would engage right away. Like, I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you?
So I got to ask you a question. You have used the term upset sometimes, and maybe different people use different definitions for that. When you're saying upset, are you meaning someone that's going ballistic, throwing things or whatever? Or are you just saying they're just not happy with the situation?
Well, not happy with the situation, but with TJ, upset usually means his voice is elevated, his tone changes. Like when you're trying to argue a point, and he's trying to get his point across, that's what I mean by upset.
Okay.
It's different than angry.
Okay. Does Mr. Baker use drugs or alcohol around the children?
Use what? Drugs?
Drugs around the children?
No. He he does smoke cigarettes, but we don't allow smoking in the house. So he always has to step outside to do that.
Now, there had been some talk about Jennifer Wheeler having communication with you regarding the children.
Mhm.
Do you communicate with her ever?
Yes.
Okay.
I've tried to maintain a relationship with Jennifer. And I've told her this before. They spent over 9 years together, so I love her. I always thought of her as my own daughter. So this is hard. I like to keep the lines of communication open. I'm trying to be neutral. And we do send texts back and forth. We do talk. We send pictures of the kids back and forth, and I want to maintain that. I don't want her out of my life.
Does she always keep you apprised when the children are sick?
Sometimes, not always.
Does she keep you apprised of all the times the children have school activities or extracurricular things going on?
No, she did tell us about the dance recital, but I really don't know about school functions.
Okay. She hasn't offered any of that up to you, though?
Not that I can recall.
Does she ever indicate to you when certain bad things or good things are going on with the children, your grandchildren?
You mean like just things that happen around the house, or?
Yeah, just generally on a regular basis. Is she keeping you updated as to what's going on with them?
Yeah, she'll send me pictures. She'll say, this is what we did this week. I mean, Jennifer and I have had a pretty good relationship. We're not enemies.
Yeah. Did there come a time where you could not supervise all the parenting time?
Recently, yes.
Okay. And did you have a communication with Miss Wheeler about that?
I did. I specifically, so when visitation first started, Jennifer had me sign a paper. I don't think it was drawn up by a lawyer. I think it was just something personal between her and I that stated that I would be with the children at all times when TJ was around, and I signed it. So I wanted to make sure I did everything according to what Jennifer wanted, and my work schedule increased. And so I texted her and asked her if it's okay if my mother or my husband would be the, the stand-in for me so that I could go work. And I think she responded, that's fine. And so when I am gone, I make sure my mother is here.
Have you ever, I mean, aside from when your mother has to supervise, have you knowingly failed to supervise the parenting time between Mr. Baker and his children?
What do you mean failed?
Well, so for instance, have you ever said, I'm not going to be here, I'm going to go to the grocery store or whatever, Mr. Baker can just be by himself with the children?
Never.
Okay. And so you take your duties and responsibilities seriously here?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And from everything you have seen, do you believe that Mr. Baker should have unsupervised expanded parenting time?
I absolutely do.
And you don't believe it would be a danger to his children?
No, I don't. And the fact that he's living here, I mean, I'm here too, so.
So let me ask you this. So it was brought up that the children do not have their own beds at your place, and
Correct.
that there's a bedroom that has basically storage.
Yes.
Is that able to be cleaned out if Mr. Baker's parenting time expands? Is that able to be cleaned out and bunk beds be put in there?
I can try very hard. Like I said, we live in a small old house that has no storage. If that is something that is going to be a requirement, I would work very hard to do that. I guess I didn't think about it because it was just, I mean, the visits have been sparse and it's been like an overnight. I did not give that a thought.
Okay. But you would make the appropriate accommodations to make sure that the children had their own necessary space to sleep?
I would.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, just briefly, so you've seen the interaction between Mr. Baker and the children with regards to, does he try to do any learning with the children, I guess, such as reading, etc.?
Yes, especially with, I mean, Macy and Brayley are the only two that can read right now, but we have an alphabet that is refrigerator magnets that we try to use with the younger ones. We've got, there's these cards called Smarty Pants. We're always trying to engage them like that. It tickles me to see the kids trying to read. And actually, Braylee is very, very smart. She saw my father's obituary in my studio and read the whole thing. I was very impressed with her.
And how does Mr. Baker discipline the children?
It depends on the situation. He tries to start with reason, or he'll point out what they're doing wrong. Usually he can talk them around that, but if it's an escalated situation with the girls, sometimes there's a timeout needed. Usually with the little ones, it's because they're tired and they need a nap, and so he'll just lay them down for a nap.
And does Mr. Baker encourage a relationship between, I guess, his 4 children with Miss Wheeler and his other daughter, Jasmine?
Oh, yes. We had to switch weekends with Jasmine's mom, because when Lindsay was supposed to get Jasmine, we didn't have the girls. So there was a point where they weren't seeing each other. And so we had that changed.
Okay. So Jasmine's mother was willing to work with Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Okay.
When she comes to get Jasmine.
Okay. So she's not always taking Jasmine?
No.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. McNiff, cross-examination.